it's nice to see so many players, so many fans on a weekday, a work day, as Maghsoodloo arrives. But yeah, it's a real festival, and yeah, we're here to celebrate the genius of these players, but also to celebrate the tradition that is Wijk.
That's Trumpowski, because I'm also very interested. Jordan Van Forest continues to play with fire, game in and game out. Didn't really turn out well last game, but that's just his style. Okay, so this position came out of a very fashionable Vienna variation. I'm going to rewind a little bit. d4, knight f6, d4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, d takes e4, e4. Now, for a long time in this position, bishop d4 was kind of considered to be de rigueur. It was considered to be essentially the only serious move. But this new line with b5 became very, very fashionable in the last couple of years. It's a very risky line, but it's also very, very interesting. White's main response here is to push e5. And this is very hard to understand, David, I think, for someone who's not acquainted with this line, because black gives up the b-pawn. It looks visually extremely ugly. I mean, just look at this pawn structure. But you have complete control over the d5 square. The light-squared bishop is going to come out to b7. And you're essentially going to get a very double-edged struggle, which is what Parham Maghsoodloo was looking for. But Wenjun says, no, not on my watch. And she plays a much more peaceful line. Simply knight takes b5, knight takes e4, and queen a4, which is kind of a bailout variation, as far as I understand. Could not be more different from the main lines with e5, c6, knight comes back, trade, bishop takes e4, here's another trade, and here you just get a very placid, kind of equal-ish, Caro-Kann-like structure. This is the current position.
Yeah, you mentioned the Caro-Kann-like structure. Those pawns on c6, e6 do tend to resemble that opening. I guess the absence of b-pawns, that leads to an extra imbalance. White has access to an open file very quickly. Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's a level position. The fact that there's so many pieces off the board means that black doesn't really have to worry about being cramped. No space issues at all. White has no weaknesses either way. Daniel, I think this is just influenced by yesterday's game for Wenjun. She had a really tough defeat against Pragnananda in a chaotic, wild position, something we call irrational. Today she wants something just really simple, something she can easily get a grip on. And like you say, it's regarded as a bailout variation, like safety first chess, but maybe she's just hoping to provoke Maghsoodloo, who's going to build up a head of steam after yesterday's win in The Hague. I'm pretty sure he would have been dancing back to Wijk on a high. But yeah, it feels like a very understandable, very kind of logical strategy from Wenjun here. She doesn't need to do anything special. She can provoke the opponent. Yeah, with White, main thing is to recover from yesterday's loss. If she avoids defeat, decent result, bit of a rating game, and yeah, it's up to Maghsoodloo to try and achieve stuff. At some point, black will strike out with c5, probably castling first, knight on d7, and
ready to perform the official duties of recording the results. Okay, king g7 makes no sense. It allows white to protect the pawn on a1, so king e7 makes contact with the knight, forces it back to e5. Yeah, not really sure what Parham is thinking about here. I mean, as much as he hates draws, we admire his fighting spirit, but sometimes you just have to accept the inevitable at this point. It becomes, just crazy to refrain from the repetition. Yeah, he's about to play king e7. We're going to catch the handshake momentarily.
Yeah, I mean, he should be begging for that handshake. He's been on the back foot for a long, long time. Just try to hold this draw. Wenjun, she got close, but ultimately not close enough. Parham, he should be grateful for this. Why would he consider playing on king e7? I think it's right, just that fighting spirit, just that hatred of draws almost is the only thing holding him back right now. Wenjun, she knows. And I think, again, great game from her, but putting these top players to bed, these 2,700 plus players, finishing off these advantages against them is the hardest thing in the world. So 97, we'll see a little dance between the white knight and the black king any moment now. Come on, Parham, make your move. Is he thinking of putting that pawn he's fiddling with in his pocket, Anishgiri style?
He's definitely debating it. I mean, he's fidgeting violently with that pawn. But I don't think it was ever winning for Wenjun. I think at some point we got excited. Parham overextended himself a little bit. There was that moment when she sacked the c-pawn. But gotta give Parham credit. I think he defended very cleanly. And there it is, king e7. It's a draw. Okay, Wenjun, 95. Back she goes. Back he goes. And here comes the arbiter once again. Here's the handshake. It's a draw.
It is a draw. A fair result in the end. Great game by Wenjun, but great defense from Maghsoodloo. And then there was just one game remaining as Maghsoodloo signs off the score sheet in this one. And he looks despondent, Daniel. He looks like a frustrated player, but what can you do when you have the black pieces against someone as strong as Wenjun playing a great game? I think maybe more frustrated that he couldn't keep up the winning streak after getting really lucky